so many hours in a day. You can only do so much for those hours.
Get a reel.
And then after that, let the chips fall where they may.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it?
What up, Lane Graves?
The next
Time Green Fishing Machine. That's right. As always, brother. Nice to see you.
You came over and you fell into my arms.
SFT family is alive and kicking well. Thank you, buddy. Yes, sir. Sam and Sam, how are you? Got show. Galen Heathcote. Galen, really nice seeing you the other day. Really good seeing you, buddy. I'm glad you stopped up. WB Jones, Jim Saban, Johnny Kopp. Nice talking with you on the phone today, John. Mike Hayer, what do you say, brother? Ed Radowski, how are you, Ed? Gio Miller. You know, Ed, I just want to say thank you so much for Ed. Got some entries for the high school teams to fish our tournament this weekend. That's just a great thing, Ed. We appreciate you, brother. Those kids are stoked, ready to roll, and they wouldn't be able to fish without you, bro. So thank you so much. Gio Miller. Giorgio Valentine, how are you, buddy? LP Bass is here. Jason Stutzman, Matthew Weimer, as always, brother. It rained a little bit, Matthew, but, you know, just give us some adverse conditions to work around, and yeah, you're going to be fine out there on the river or wherever you go fishing. Just go to the right spots. Be safe about it. You'll be fine. Yeah. Ronald Kennard, how are you? David Schottemeyer, what's up? Best time of the week, Shane. You better believe it. Robert Mills, Ken Hodgin. What's up, Kenny? Jeff Santangelo. How are you, Jeff? I got your order out to you today, I think it was. Thank you so much. Chad Ribick, how are you, buddy? Len Felch. And we got a whole bunch of guys here. Kressler, how are you, man? Alvin, Jay Sandberg, what's happening, buddy? Minneapolis, St. Paul Airport. Wow. What are you doing there? Traveling? Hopefully you're going to some awesome lake up there or something. Probably work, but, you know, got to do that too. Wow. Great to see everybody. Great to have everybody here. Conway's in the house. Don Roeder, how are you, buddy? Mike Barr, the best as always. He's OG from the original SFT. So that is some good stuff right there. Mark from Lisa Lake, how are you, pal? Yeah. Man, we got a great show for you tonight. It's Thursday night, and we are here 7 o'clock, Tackle Shop Live, every Thursday night to talk fishing, to talk tackle, and to talk technique. And tonight we are going to continue our tidal water talk. We didn't get a lot of time last week to really get down and dirty on it, so we're gonna kind of continue that conversation tonight, and kind of we weren't real happy with how we got some of the information across, so we wanted to expand on that a little bit and make it a little bit more easy to understand. So we're gonna do that tonight. I'm excited about that. My name is Mike Acord. Over here next to me is George Acord, and behind the camera is cameraman Nick, as always. And we are so glad you guys stopped by tonight. This is our Thursday night. This is what we do. We love doing it. We love being here. We love talking tackle, and we love all this. And we love you guys stopping by and every week. And we appreciate you guys very, very, very much. I'm telling you, we are on the eve of one of the greatest tournaments on the East Coast. The Susquehanna Fish and Tackle, sfttackle.com SummerSlam tournament is kicking off on Sunday. This Sunday, we are fired up. We got over 160 boats signed up already, and there's more that I have to get put up that came in late today and tonight. So there's going to be a boatload of people down there, pardon the pun, but there's going to be a lot of people down there. So we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be a great, great tournament. So, you know, we are excited about it. So it's definitely a go on Sunday, and things are looking good. I guess the only thing you have to kind of concern yourself with is the debris on the bay. There is a fair amount of debris down there, so we're gonna ask you guys to you know, to be very cautious with the debris, and you know, just take your time, get around. You got 8 hours. You don't have to rush. You could take your time and get around. It's not going to be a big deal if you don't make it a big deal. So that's the only thing we're kind of concerned about. But I think if everybody pays attention and everybody takes their time, it's going to be fine. So if you don't feel comfortable going out through the debris field, then you just stay in the Northeast River. The thing I want to say about that is there's been 1 or 2, maybe possibly 3 tournaments won in the Northeast River.
And a lot of top 10s.
The Northeast River, throughout the day, if you just get a rotation going on in there and just bounce around, you can put 25 pounds in your boat, no problem. I'm telling you, it can happen. So don't worry if you're a little concerned about running around. Just stay in the Northeast. I can't emphasize it enough. Even for the new people going down there, you know, it is well worth when we call your number just to put your trolling motor down and start fishing.
We've seen it.
we sat there
and
and
it's
watched
all
it.
and the reason why we could talk about it too, Mike, is we do live on the water.
Yeah.
And we've shown it already.
Yeah.
You know,
we pulled up on guys as they were landing fish. In it, right. I mean, within eyesight of the boat ramp.
And they had their limits before other guys even put their trolling motors down.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, for everybody that's maybe unsure of the conditions and you're worried about it, just stay in the Northeast. You'll be fine. You're going to catch fish. You just got to get a rotation going and just keep bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, hitting all the places at different times of the tide. And as the tide moves, just keep bouncing around. And guess what? One of those rotations, they're going to fire.
And that's funny you say that, because no matter where you go down there, it's the grind.
Yeah.
You just got to outgrind.
Exactly. And, you know, even if you run out, you know, we're going to get into it tonight about tidal water fishing and, you know, getting your rotation going and just bouncing and bouncing and bouncing and just keep running your rotation. And eventually one of those rotations, they're going to fire and you're going to catch a 25-pound bag. I mean, it's just what happens. You know, it's they're not biting all the time, but when they do, you want to be on a good rotation. And so that's what it's all about. And we are super excited about it. It's going to be a great tournament. We're going to have great weather. It's going to be beautiful out there, sunny, and things are going to go well. So, but I just want to put that out for you guys. You know, I just want to put it out to you guys that definitely be careful with the debris. That's our biggest issue. So we are going to be having a tournament, and that's the way it is. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a really good time. So we still have a little bit of time. If anybody wants to sign up and you want to fish, we still have tomorrow yet. All day tomorrow, you can sign up. We have some room left. Probably about 15 boats shy of we're about 15 boats shy of our 200 boat limit. So we still have some room, and we can get you guys in, no problem. So let's fill this mother up. So come on down.
All right. So 2 things I look forward to most for this tournament every year. And I never even told you guys this before. One is George's blast off every year.
Yep.
I like that.
Yep.
Got a little,
That's
anthem
fun.
going out, and then George is doing his thing.
Yep.
And 2, and I don't know how he does it, but we got They say Dave Mercer is good at being an MC.
Yeah.
Well, we got the guy that rivals him. I mean, come on. Mike, how do you do it?
Oh man, I love it. I just have fun with the weigh-ins, and I want everybody to feel special. When you come up, and it's just fun for me. I think of Dave Mercer every time I'm up there talking, trying to emulate him and follow his lead. But I just have fun with it. It's a lot of fun, and that's part of our deal. And I like to have fun too, so that's how I do it.
Are you like gargling lemon water and whatever they do?
Yeah, I do. I gargle something, but but no, it's a lot of fun. So that's the best part of the whole thing is the weigh-ins fun, the camaraderie afterwards. A lot of people stay, which I really like, and they don't wet track home right away. So there's a lot of people. There's hundreds of people that are standing around hanging out for the tackle toss, for the award ceremony, for the weigh-in, and that's the fun part of it. And it's really fun for me and George to catch up with all you guys, to talk to all you guys that we don't see all the time, and get a chance to see you. A lot of fun with that. So that's going to be a really cool deal. I got an announcement. The website is up and running, but the shopping cart is broke down right now. We're working on it. For anybody that was trying to get orders done today, I think it started around 3:00. I think is when the problem started. We're doing some maintenance, and we were kind of worried that it was going to happen, but we felt like it wasn't going to, but it did. Of course, it's me, so whatever I do just goes to crap all the time. But so it went down, and it'll be up and running tonight yet, possibly, but most surely by 8:00 tomorrow morning, it'll be up and running, and we won't have any problems from there on out. So if you were trying to place an order, just hang tight. You'll be able to do it, and you can place it tomorrow morning early, and we'll get it out tomorrow for you. Okay. Well, we are excited. We are excited about today's show. And Nick, what are your feelings about tidal water or the tidal water thing? I mean, are you excited about tidal water fishing? Are you a big fan of tidal water fishing?
Actually, I really became a big fan last year, and before that even. But we had a great time last year, and I really dedicated some time to learn more.
Yeah.
Not saying I figured anything out, but I learned more.
Yeah.
Which is what we're always trying to do anyway.
Yeah.
But I think what I enjoyed the most about the bay or, tidal water fishing is there's a lot of different things you have to think about all the time.
Yeah.
You're not just going out and trying to find fish. You're also trying to find fish at the right time and be at the right spot.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people, sometimes you're like, man, they didn't catch anything over there. But that's because it's not the right time to be there.
Right.
And they kind of leave and you go over there at the right time. You look like a hero. There's lots of moments like that. And, nothing that you guys didn't already know.
Yeah.
But the other thing I think is cool about tidal water is you can get right in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
You can go from your day just is like, oh man.
Yeah.
And there's times where you just got to grind it out because there's that sweet spot of time that you're just like, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does. And sometimes it doesn't, but it can. And it's just fun. It's a breath of fresh air when you're fishing lakes all the time. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's my thing. I've noticed many, many times, and I've talked to many, many people who came in with giant bags and they were like, man, I just made a move. I made 5 casts and I put every fish in the boat in 15, 20 minutes. And I mean, I can't even believe I found that spot. I can't even believe that happened. And if I hear that once, I hear it 100 times. I just landed on them at the right time. So what I always like to tell people about tidal water fishing, what I'm so excited about is every time I make a small adjustment, I think it's going to be the epic bite, that it's ready to happen anytime, because that's the way it happens. It happens quick, it happens fast, and it can happen at any moment. So, and I think the other thing is, it's like the tournament we're watching on Bassmaster right now, the Sabine River, when everybody's saying, oh, it's a grind. It's a grind. That's exactly what the tidal water fishing is. It's always a grind and you're always grinding, but the reward is on the, or at least on the upper bay, the reward is, instead of 12 inches, you're going to land on a pile of fish, and it's going to be 4, 5s, and 6s, and that's how you win a tournament. So, mental attitude while you're fishing tidal water is a huge thing for me. And that's something that I think all you guys that are going to fish that tournament this weekend, just keep a mental attitude. Just because the water's dirty, just because it's whatever, it's been dirty now for over a week. These fish are acclimated. They're going to bite. They got to eat. The water temperature makes them eat. Their metabolism makes them eat. So they're going to bite no matter what. You just gotta say to yourself, okay, it's mud water, but that doesn't mean anything for shallow water, tidal water bass, because it really doesn't.
And that's a good point. If you're looking at any type of element as a deterrent, you're already playing a bad mental mindset of yourself.
Yeah.
Look at it as what is the opportunity that element gives you.
Exactly.
And that's going to help you stay mentally strong, because I've been in lots of tournaments, whether it was Blue Marsh or the Upper Bay, where half the field is mentally done by 9:30.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to go, while they're done, it's just beginning.
Yeah.
And that's the way you got to look at it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't say enough about mental attitude when it comes to tournament fishing. Just keeping a positive outlook. I mean, you might say to yourself, man, I'm just not down here. I really don't know enough. You could land on that spot at any minute. There's so many thousands of those spots out there that you could land on those fish any minute. You got to be ready for it. And if you stay in the Northeast, like I think a lot of guys should, it's amazing how you pull up on a dock and catch 3, 4, 5 pounders. I mean, off of one dock. It's the craziest thing ever. So you don't know when that's going to happen. You just got to keep that mental attitude. And I guess that's the thing we want to take away from this little short intro is mental attitude, and knowing that something's going to happen sometime during the day. And if you're mentally strong, you're going to catch them. You're going to do better than the guy that just kind of falls apart right away in the morning because he didn't get his bites, and he's ready to jump on a trailer at 1:00. No. My brothers once and I and together, but also him a lot. He's won tournaments in the last 5 minutes of the day. I mean, last cast basically, and it happens down there all the time. So keep a great mental attitude. You guys are gonna keep you're gonna do an awesome job down there. So anyway, we're gonna move right along here and get this show going. We're gonna get to our best part of the show. We are a tackle shop. We love talking tackle, and we call this Tackle Talk. Yeah. Man, oh man, it is the best time of this show. It's Tackle Talk, and we've got tackle to talk about. And what are you gonna bless us with today, George?
Well, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare, so I got a theme.
Oh, we like themes.
Yeah, well, I went with jig heads.
Well, I mean, jig heads are a big deal. I don't think people understand how big of a deal jig heads are to us.
I think they do.
I mean,
our inventory, based upon the pallets of jig heads that we sell, I would say they do.
The jig head selection in our shop is extraordinary. We have a jig head for everything that you could possibly need one for. So what do you got, George? What do you want to show us today?
Well, the jig head, like specialty type jig heads, that there's no end to the development that takes place there. And being able to dial in your presentation, take advantage of like unique bites. For example, when you fish and our show's located in Pennsylvania, so we tend to favor the Northeast. That's where we do most of our fishing. But part of the Northeast is we have phenomenal natural bodies of water. We have the Finger Lake region of New York.
Mm-hmm.
we have the Thousand Islands, we have the lake, the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
And, one of the most deadly techniques on those waters is dragging a football jig.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skirted or not. Now, I'm not really highlighting skirted football jigs, but I am highlighting a tungsten head that, when you're fishing deep, which a lot of these fish in those waters live deep because of their forage, the goby.
Yeah.
That's where he lives, on the bottom. So a lot of time, your bigger trophy style fish are deep. And one of the techniques that is dynamite for that is dragging a hula grub style bait.
Yeah.
So here we have a Strike King. What do they call this thing? This is called a Rage Luau Craw.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a knockoff of the number one that came out many years ago, and that was the Yamamoto hula grub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hula.
Yeah.
Luau.
Yeah. Exactly.
But the best way to fish this is on a football head with a light weed guard. And the best way to do that is with a tungsten football head. So we have the Kitech Super Football.
Yeah, hold that up there just for a split second longer, George, so people can see it. There you go.
And that is a tungsten weed guard, 2-aught super sharp hook, killer keepers on there.
Hold a bait on there real good for you.
Yeah, got a collar up here. If you want to put a skirt on this thing, you could slide a skirt up over that collar.
Heck of a jig.
But you put this on this luau grub or hula grub, and I like to kind of measure it up. So I'll kind of hold my grub there.
Show that, Nick.
I'll hold my head up there, and I know I can see I want to come out of this segment right here. And I'll just kind of get that skirt out of my way. Thread that down through the middle.
So he's just threading on like he would any twister tail or any kind of
twister tail.
Well, like a twister
There's a blast
tail
from the past.
or a little swim bait or whatever. You're going to thread it on the same way, and you want to get it on straight. That's why it's important to measure. You want to measure your hookup. So he gets it all the way in there real nice. You can see because he measured it up, he popped it out where he wanted it to come out, and he got it to where the bait is on there. Yeah, turn it and hold it up there for a second.
The nice thing about the football head is that when you're dragging it and it hits something, you can rock it up. So now you got these claws rocking up in the water. So you drag it along, you hit a rock or shake it a little bit, wag it, pop it. And for big smallmouth, very often do you not catch a big smallmouth.
Yeah.
This is a great technique. And the nice thing about it is the small profile of that head. This is a 1/4 ounce. The 1/2 ounce is where you want to be. The 1/2 ounce head is where you want to be on this bad boy for the deep water. Current, wind, what have you. So that's our first specialty jig head, the Kitech Tungsten Super Football. And an awesome bait choice.
Yeah. And that's all goes with that dragon. When you want to drag something on the bottom, the football jig has always been the best jig head or the jig to use. And now you can get a jig head itself, and they make that all the way up to 1/2 ounce, George?
1/2 ounce.
Yeah, they go up to a 1/2 ounce, and And we have football jigs in lead that are even bigger yet if you need something heavier, but you can drag those things around. And, that rocking thing that George was saying, having that thing rock up real nice, that's the key to it. Get the drag along, hit something, and then shake that jig head to get those legs to really flop and get those fish to look at it. And it's a hard head, so you're feeling everything with the tungsten. You feel everything on the bottom real crisp and clean in your hand. So that's the other reason to use a tungsten head. So very, very good setup right there.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And of course, you might be in a situation where you want to put some other bait on there, whatever. That's just an example for, a tricked out jig head and the bait to put on it for a specific region that we fish.
Yeah. That's the Rage Strike King Rage luau grub.
Yep. Well, you could put, the Gary Yamamoto hula grub would fit well on there. The Kitech spider grub would fit well on there.
Yeah.
What have you.
Yeah.
In that Kitech, I do the 3-inch. Okay, so the next specialty jig head we have, and this is overlooked. This is overlooked. So one of the things we like to do is drag a swim bait, particularly pre-spawn and late fall and winter. Drag it on the bottom, just like you would drag that football jig. The problem is we like to do it on a jig head, and the problem is we don't like getting snagged all the time. So,
amen, brother.
One of our favorite swim bait heads is the Strike King Squadron head. It has a dynamite keeper system on it. It works great with both standard plastic and Elastec. Tremendous. It works really good with Elastec. But this one has a weed guard. So this is the weedless Squadron head. Something you don't see a lot is a fiber weed guard swim bait head. And here's the beauty of it. We're going to thread this Crush City Mare on there. Or you could do whatever swim bait you like. I just kind of take that weed guard and kind of get it out of my way a little bit. And take your time. Try to get that on there straight.
Center, Nick. In the center, down the center, and out the center.
Put it over that keeper. I'm just telling you right now. That right there.
You could drag that thing real nice and slow on the bottom.
That right there. Now, I'm going to do one thing to that.
Uh-oh. He's on the run.
Mike, I'm surprised you didn't tackle him when he wanted to show that one.
I know. I've kept that a secret for a while now, and it's been a really good bait for me, especially in these times.
What times is that?
The pre-spawn and the fall. I mean, the fall winter is incredible.
I don't like that weed guard being all thick like that and all big like that. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that weed guard down a little bit. And the second thing I'm going to do, I'm going to thin that weed guard out a little bit off the front. And the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to smash that weed guard down a little bit and get it to fan out a little bit. Now we're cooking with Crisco. Now I have that weed guard right where I want it. Look at that.
The bottom part of that weed guard is what pushes it out of the way of the rock. And the top just kind of directs it out of the way. The meat and potatoes down in the bottom there is where you need that little extra horsepower. And as you're dragging along and it rolls up a little bit, it'll just push it right off that rock nice for you.
Nice little specialty head for you if you're dragging some gnarly cover. That is the deal.
So you can see the big important thing about this is the 3 C's: center, center, center. You go into center so it's straight that way. Okay. You go down the center so it's straight this way, and you come out the center of the top, because what you don't want is you don't want a kink in this bait, because if you put a kink in it, it does the same thing over and over. You want this thing to do the wobble real slow on the bottom, and you want it to be very straight so it doesn't lay over when you're reeling it through the water and hang up even worse. So center, 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 down this through in the center of the nose, down the center of the body, and out the center of the top. And then measure your hook up nice and make sure everything's nice and straight. That's so important when you're fishing a jig head on a swim bait, because it allows the bait to operate properly. You don't have a kink in there. A lot of times if you're afraid to pull the hook back out if you rig it a little funny, just pull the hook out a little bit and then restart it in straighter, and it's worth it in the long run. Most of these keepers will if you take your time, that you won't tear them up too bad, but just make sure it's center, center, center. That's a key thing about that. Right, George?
Nice and straight. All right. So next up on our specialty jig head, we're going to talk about shaky head rig on a soft stick bait. So we're going to take our Senko. This is the 4-inch fat. You can do any Senko you want. This shaky head that I'm going to show you will work with 4-inch, 5-inch, regular, fat. But the key here, this is a Big Bite Baits fin twist. Fin twist head with a Gamakatsu hook. Okay? See that Gamakatsu sticker right there?
That's the money. That's the money. That's the money hook right there.
And I want you to observe the size of that spring. Normally, I'm not a spring lock guy, but this big spring right here, pretty good for a softer stick bait. I like to bend it down a little bit, get my angle right. And then, because this is such a nice big spring, and I'm right-handed, take your time, get that spring to bite in there.
What are you doing? You're just twisting it on.
Well, that's how you put them on a spring. You just screw them on.
You're just screwing it on, twisting the bait, and screwing it right up on there.
And that bigger diameter spring, as compared to a lot of the small ones, it's grabbing a lot more, 3 times the plastic. And then, of course, I'm just going to eyeball this up. I need to come in back here. One of the things I like to do is I like to go ahead and bring my hook out and then back it up. Kind of little trough there for it. That's a deadly little finesse combo right there. Key being that big diameter spring that you get on that fin twist head. Now, what's cool about this head is this head is made from 1/8 to 3/4 of an ounce. So you can fish, an 1/8 ounce in 2-3 foot of water. You can be out on a deep offshore structure, like a point or a ledge or a hump that has some nice cover on it, like some rock or some wood, brush pile. You can put a 1/2 ounce on with a freaking 6-inch Senko or 8-inch magworm and really do some damage.
key is nice and straight, but you can kind of get a good look at this thing all rigged up here. And like George said, that spring is a extra large spring on there, so it really screws nice into soft plastics like the Senko. It doesn't rip out near as quick, and it keeps it for more fish. But that's the setup right there. It's real freaking awesome to throw these things.
I would like to say this too. If I was fishing a tournament, say Sunday, and I was on like the Sabine River or some other tidal water, like, the Chesapeake Bay, or I would have a shaky head tied on my rod.
Oh, for sure.
And I would have a wide variety of plastic worms at my disposal. If I was doing something like that on a body of water, like
The Chesapeake, maybe.
the Chesapeake Bay, maybe Northeast River, I would have from a 4.5-inch finesse worm to a 6.5-inch finesse worm to the Magnum versions of those finesse worms. And I would have some chartreuse and some orange dye. And I would just
Possibly some darker colors also.
I would just, like, I'm talking about, pick some rock apart and some wood apart. I call it cracking. I'm hitting every crack. I'm not casting here and here. I'm casting here, 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 and here.
He's grinding them.
Catching them all, every one of them.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the questions I have for you guys, some of our viewers, they're here every week. They know these techniques, but this is a great refresh. Some of our viewers and listeners don't know.
Oh, we have a lot of new guys.
Right. And so the question is, with the techniques that you've talked about so far, not getting too elaborate in this question, but are they spinning rod or casting techniques for people that don't know?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Because our tackle has evolved
Yeah.
to the point of, what do you like? Like, for example, I love to fish my shaky head on a bait casting rod.
Yeah.
Very rarely will I fish my shaky head on a spinning rod.
Yep.
Because my accuracy.
Right.
If you're fishing like a marina and you're trying to put a shaky head between a $1.2 million boat and a dock, and you can't do that, the contents of that $1.2 million boat could come at you like hornets coming out of a nest when your shaky head is bouncing off the side of their $1.2 million boat. So I am a big proponent of a medium heavy casting rod
And a good trained thumb.
with 10-pound test line in the fluorocarbon formation and my shaky head. No, I don't fish braid to a leader. I'm almost completely anti braid to leader on bait casters because I don't have time in my life for that knot to just randomly catch a guide, which it will.
It does.
I don't
Very
care if you
frustrating.
tie an FG knot. I don't care. It'll catch a guide. And then your reel blows up. I don't have time for that.
And at the same token, the guys who are comfortable with spinning rods, Nick, there's absolutely no reason why a spinning rod. There's many times where I use 15-pound braid to a 12-pound leader on a shaky head,
Whole different animal.
and it works great for me, because I don't feel comfortable with it, or maybe whatever.
You're just not there
yet.
yet.
Whatever the reason is.
Oh, I know the reason.
There's plenty of rods, a good solid medium heavy spinning rod will get the job done really well. So yes, like George said, yes, you can fish them on both.
So, light tackle is no good for this. A light setup is no good. No good. Doesn't work. The problem is you catch a nice fish, and a nice fish could be a 2.5, 3-pounder on a boat dock. and you set the hook, and it's just it's mayhem. I mean, it's just mayhem going on there. And if you can't direct the fish, many a time, and I'm just going to share this because this is a winning strategy for that lighter line. Many a time, I'll get a bite, and that fish will eat that worm and swim around a dock piling before I have time to. I'll just tension them up, guide them out around there, and then set the hook. They're not going to let go. But the point is, whatever rod you're comfortable with, that you can make that pinpoint presentation, because this is a game of inches. You know, you talk about fishing pressure. Our waters are pressured because we have so many fans of this great sport.
Yeah.
But when you're in shallow water target circumstances, I mean, there's a lot of people that cannot put that bait where it needs to go. They just can't do it. They're not there yet. So mastering your shaky head technique is great. And there's a number of different ways to do this. As a matter of fact, the next head I'm going to show you is a high-tech version of an old school setup. Now, this guy here is ultimately a descendant of the Charlie Brewer slider head. This is where we have descended from here, but now we have, you know, the Charlie Brewer slider head type head on, you know, modern hooks. And
strong and sharp.
One thing this head will do, this head will skip really well. So now you spinning rod guys that want a shaky head, and you're also old enough to have been exposed to slider fishing, you're going to adapt to this. So we're going to go into the old tray here. The tray of...
Yeah. Any of you manufacturers that see this pile of stuff right here and you want to compensate us for using all your products,
that's the sample tray.
feel free.
Oh, look at this.
Feel free.
We got the old Nico worm here. And we're going to Texas rig it on this bait. And we need to go in only that far because that's our offset. So we're going to go in that far, which is about the bend of the hook. Bottom of this has a flat zone. Okay. Bring our hook out. And then we're just going to Texas rig it. Turn it. Look at that. Look how straight that is. Look how perfect that fits that jig head. Look at that. And we're going to come up here. Texas rig at. Remember my tip. Bring that hook through and back it up. This skips pretty well.
So what he means by bringing it through, and he said it earlier, is troughing. That's kind of giving a path. He cuts it all the way through the worm to kind of the way it's going to go when you set the hook, and it gives that hook a path for when a fish bites it. It's going to come through a little bit easier, and you get a little bit better hook set. So once you rig it up, just push it through like it would go through, and then pull it back into into your bait. We call it troughing.
Bad to the bone right here, people. Old school, been around for a long time, this owner bullet head, but bad to the bone.
Yeah, and the way this one sits on the bottom, it sits like this on the bottom. And you can see the way that worm's rigged. It's going to put it up in an upright position, so the worm will be standing up real nice, and you can shake it along. And it's a Texas rig, so it's a little easier to rig up, and it's got the pull right off the nose, and it's a bullet weight style head. If you can see that, it's a bullet weight style head there. And so that goes through the grass real nice. It goes through the wood and the rock really nice. It doesn't seem to hang up real bad with that style head. So it's just a beautiful slider. Had it right all along. And then these guys copied it and just put the better hardware inside there. You know, not that there's anything wrong with the slider head. It's just This is like just a better setup.
And you could put a multitude of baits on this head. Here's a crawl.
That's stank bug.
That's a stank bug.
Stank bug. Stank bug alert. Did you see that fish with John Cox today holding on to that stank bug? Never even had it hooked. If he doesn't sell 1 million stank bugs off of that one fish catch, and it was a short one, but he put it in the boat, and the fish was clamped down on the plastic and wouldn't let go of it. Did you see that, George?
Yes.
Is that awesome or what? I have no reaction out of you.
That was awesome.
George expected that.
That was the most awesome thing I saw today.
So in your guys' fishing, that was an old school technique you guys showed.
Oh,
where did you guys do the most damage on that technique in your fishing?
Honestly, now listen, back in 1989, when we opened the doors at Susquehanna Fish and Tackle, in 1990, I think it was, we had just a spring worse than this. Rained every damn day for months. Remember that, George?
I do.
And there was a lake, one of our local lakes. It's called Muddy Run. Never gets muddy. This son of a gun was chocolate milk and high up in the bushes and up in everything. And George and I and my dad, I don't know if we took turns. I don't know how we did it. But anyway, one day, George and I went down there and fished. And we fished a slider head. That's when we busted it out. It was the first time we ever used it. We busted this thing out, and I think it was 1989. And we were fishing ringworms. And that's all we fished was ringworms, 4-inch ringworms, and we freaking annihilated them. It was unbelievable. I caught my personal best smallmouth at the time, a 5'4" smallie, on a pumpkin seed ringworm with a chartreuse tail. But anyway, that's what started it. And we fished all kinds of worms on that thing. And it was a staple in our box. And it was so big back in those days that everybody used it. The slider head was used by everybody, and everybody in our club used it. And we all finesse fish. We all fished with 6 and 8 pound tests back in those days. And we threw a slider head in everything: trees, grass, rocks, docks. And we caught the living fire out of fish on those things. And we fished Zoom curly tail worms. We fished.
It's a great.
It's just
head.
a great finesse head. Yeah, and back end we fished it all on spinning rods. Just an unbelievable rig, and still to this day, a great, unbelievable rig. It's a fish catching rig. It's a rig that will present a bait properly, present it everywhere, easy to rig, and a lot of fun to fish. So now they have it. Slider head on steroids, big giant hook, beautiful sharp hook, owner hook in there, beautiful thing.
Yeah, well, you can buy this style of head from Charlie Brewer. Also with that has a mustad.
Yeah,
nice black nickel mustad in it. You can buy it from.
Yeah, but what's that one called in a Charlie Brewer?
The Pro Spider.
The Pro Spider head.
You can buy it from BKK.
Yep. Theirs is called the it's got a weird name to that thing.
Yeah. Well, the point is, it's a great finesse technique. It skips well. It's great for a variety of baits. It's a classic jig head that we need to talk to. It's a specialty jig head that we need to talk about.
Yep.
Which is our theme tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Specialty jig heads.
I like how we're mixing in tidal water fishing and talking into this too. I don't like that.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Now, next up is dealing with shaking your minnow, especially if it's a Laztec. And I mean, if it's not, perhaps it should be. So, a Laztec is awesome, but it really there's some keepers that are better than others, easier to rig, and they make a swim bait head, if you want to call it that, called the Finesse Eye. And the finesse eye, you know, has that minnow shaped head with the big eyeball. And a lot of people are all about that eyeball. But what I like about it is this tiny little soldered on wire keeper. Right there. It's like a splinter. Because the nature of Elastec, being what it is, there's a couple things I like about this. This, and what I like to do is when I rig it, I like to come in here and just kind of smash that in there. I'm going to catch a pile.
Smash it in where?
The keeper.
So you're pushing down and kind of locking it in
That's
that little wire.
I like to get it.
Well, I think that's very important.
I like to do that.
I think it's very, very important.
And now I can shake my minnow. And if I'm not a minnow shaker, I can swim it. I can tight line it and let it pendulum.
Doesn't that have like a cup bottom to the lip?
To the head?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a little
channel.
Little like trough on there.
Yeah.
It wobbles when you swim it. You could put a little boot foot on here. You can put a little.
That's Greg DePalma's favorite jig head for shaking. Well, one of them.
You can put a little like a 3-inch minnow on there. Plus, what I like about it is they make the exact same head in a number 1 hook. So this bigger hook here
3.0
is a 3.0, and this smaller hook here is a 1.0.
So if you want to do like a 3-inch or a 2.5-inch or 2-inch, 2.5-inch grub or whatever, 2.8,
whatever,
3-incher, there you have
really like it. Really like this. This is really good stuff.
Yeah.
That's the finesse eye. And it's not just for Elastec, but it does a great job with Elastec.
Yeah.
And Elastec, something to it.
A lot to that finesse head, Nick. Hold that package up again so guys can get a look at that. A lot to that finesse head for Elastec. That little barb. And one of the key points, I hope you guys caught that, was when George rigged it all up, then he took his finger and he pushed the plastic and kind of pushed it into that wire keeper and kind of locked it in place.
Just kind of smash it in there like that.
And it just locks it in a little bit more, and it doesn't come off. And you can fish that damn thing all day long. If it does come off, you just re-rig it and then re-smash it with your finger.
It's good stuff.
Very good head. The cup body of that does make it roll real nice, and it has a really good quality hook in it, so it's not going to straighten out, and it's a strong hook.
I'm just going to throw a tip out with that bait real quick because I've caught a lot of fish on that. Keep the bait above the fish. Can't tell you enough. If the bait is at the same level or below the fish, you're not going to catch as many. Keep the bait above the fish.
There you
They
go.
like to feed up. Just a tip.
That's a good one, Nick. That's a good one.
Absolutely. I'll tell you another great way to fish that bait. And it brings us to our next style of specialty jig head. Segues here. I mean, recognition.
You're unbelievable, George.
Recognition.
You're unbelievable.
It's often been said. So we're going to talk about some underspins. Okay. We got the Strike King fluoro spin, which we've talked about with you. Right? Got the fluorocarbon.
Who was the genius that thought of that thing? That's ingenious.
The big benefit here is the collapsing
I mean, so ingenious.
on the hook set on the eat. When they eat it, it collapses up. Nice keeper. Okay. And then of course we have one of the most favorite brands of all time, and that's the Dirty Jig. And this is the tactical bass underspin, the little finesse guy. This one here, this is a 3/16. So this does 1/8, 3/16, quarter, and 3/8. And the fluorospin does that plus a half. Okay. And you'll notice the hooks are small because we're going to put small baits on them. So, for example, let's go into the box.
Henry Churchill. Henry Churchill said, Nick, wink of the week. That was the wink of the week. So Nick told you about keeping the bait above the fish, which nobody ever tells you. And it might help you with your forward-facing journey a lot. So Henry Churchill says, wink of the week.
Hey, that's what we do, right?
Yeah, I like it.
So how about a little jerk minnow? I mean, come on. We're going to put this up here on the dirty jig. We're going to use our techniques that we've been learning tonight. Eyeball it. Visualize.
So for you guys that are new to jig heads, you always want the hook to come out the top. So the hook is always coming out the top of your bait, and the bottom is the head. You know, the head's facing down basically, and the eye is facing up. See how that's up in the air? There you go.
Look at that.
Hold on to the belly of that bait. There you go.
That right there
Zoom in on that, Nickster.
is one sexy minnow with the blade. Look at that blade. Ball bearing swivel. The slightest.
Hold that still up in the air.
Nice quality hook. Look at that. Beautiful.
So this is this a Super Fluke Junior, George?
That is a big bite bait, 4-inch.
4-inch. So
Jerk
it's like a Super Fluke Junior or something like that. But see how the eye of the hook is up, and the hook is facing out the back. And this right here would be the bottom of the bait. That's the bottom. The hook comes out the back. For you guys that don't really ever rigged them, because there's people on here that never rigged this stuff, so it's important to see that.
Well, and that's pretty much the accepted method. But don't be afraid to rig your boot foot upside down, too. I'm not saying it's the best way to go, but if you're running out of boot foots, I had a tremendous day a few years ago with our buddy Greg DePalma when I started out like this, and I was on roll, and I ran out of baits. So I figured I could get another fish or two this way, then that way, and then that way.
You were desperate.
So let's put a boot foot, and this is a 3-inch mare, on this. My.
Robert, yeah, I mean, I would say that if it's rolling over on you, number one, you probably have a big bait on a too light a hook, too light a weight. But the other thing is you're probably reeling it too fast. That could be the big problem. You could be reeling it too fast.
Or it's not straight.
Right. You got to keep everything nice and straight. Center, the 3 C's.
Look at that. So that is our next style of jig head, and that's going to be our underspin jig head.
And George, what's your favorite time of year for that type of jig head?
Well, for me, it's probably not the same favorite time of the year that, you know, the history of the bait is. Traditionally, this is a phenomenal late winter bait and a phenomenal early winter bait. I love it in post spawn on a tough bite. Post spawn, tough bite. I'm like, man, what else a fella got to do to get bit here? Oh, let me get my little underspin box out. And depending on my water depth, like I'll put a swim bait on it and swim it like a swim bait. Now, if I was fishing grass on a, let's just say a tidal body of water that has vast flats of grass, and let's say the water was, decent color, which it's going to be pockets of that around this weekend on our waters. And I needed to get a bite, and I was thinking maybe a swim bait. I would go with a belly-weighted swim bait hook with a blade on it. So basically, that's the Texas rig version of this. So I consider that an underspin also. And if I was fishing like this weekend somewhere that had a lot of grass and the water had decent color to it, I'd probably put like a 4.8 swim bait on and do that. But this right here, I'll swim shallow. I'll tight line, suspended. Post spawn is my favorite time, but it's historically this head was developed for and is exceptional on late winter fish, or even early winter fish. And, it's funny. You can be, and I've had this happen on post spawn smallmouth fishing with Mike here, where, we were river fishing here on the river. We had like a killer spinnerbait bite. And then that stopped. Like spinnerbait switch off. And then we had a killer fluke bite.
Mm-hmm.
And then that stopped. Fluke bite switch off. And then we went to Akashira screwhead and a small underspin and just
annihilated
them. And that's happened.
Son.
Enough. That's happened enough over the years on river smallmouth.
Yeah.
Now
especially on clearing, starting in the morning with some stain and then clearing through the day and then the high bluebird skies moving in. And then by the afternoon, we were Okashira screwheads and small underspins. I mean, that happened more than once. Some nice little finesse technique, something you can keep the bite going with, and a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I'm going to tell you the biggest mistake that I make with an underspin. This is my biggest failure with an underspin. Is I go to it primarily when I'm failing with more comfortable for me techniques. And I've been trying to incorporate it a little more to the point where I keep a couple of them pretty handy. Like I can get at them real quick so I'm not, just distracted from picking it up. Because we're coming up on some post spawn here, some
finicky fish,
some maybe a little. We'll see what happens weather-wise, and then of course, Mike and I like to fish some winter league tournaments, and we had a couple situations this past season where we had fish on a point. We catch one big one. We catch one. And, yo-yo in a trap, dragging a big swim bait like we talked about. Finesse fishing a little bit. What we didn't do was pick up that underspin. So this year, resolution for Winter League is laying on the boat deck, tied up, strapped down, and ready to rock is going to be the underspin. Because when the wind's blowing and it's cold and it's getting late in the day and you got like 45 minutes to weigh in and you're like, I just need one more call I'm just going to keep doing this and maybe get one more bite. Well, you know what? You're going to pick up that underspin and you're going to let it hit the bottom and you're going to slow roll it back to the boat is what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to have a meeting and it's not going to end well. So that is like my resolution there. Now, deep water, clear water, smallmouth, cold water, pre-spawn smallies up north, like right now, that's also a pretty popular choice, but heavier because they're deeper.
Mm-hmm. Michael Bradley, the owner Flashy Swimmer, does have the blade on the bottom, and it's a weighted hook and it's an offset hook. So that's the hook you would use for grass swim baits, fishing it through the grass or some kind of heavy cover. That's what that's really good for, like a 3.8 or a 4.8 Kitech. You can get the Flashy Swimmer with a nice wide gap hook with the blade on the bottom. And when George said about the way we rig it is maybe not with the Flashy Swimmer, but it's similar to that. So we're old school. We do things probably the way we shouldn't do it. Probably should just go to a Flashy Swimmer, honestly, and not have to deal with split rings and all that kind of stuff. But it's all made up, ready to go. So that's perfect for grass, perfect for a swim bait into grass. And that'll work out really well, or any kind of cover, rock, if you're trying to slow roll on a shallow rocky area, or stumps. Got a lot of stumps in the area and you're banging stumps and stuff like that. Anywhere where you're hanging up a lot with everything else, that Flashy Swimmer will be a player for sure. But mess around with the underspin, and that is going to be a key player for you. It's a great jig head. It's a great jig head in our series here of different styles of jig head, because it falls in the jig head category, but it's an offshoot to a standard jig head. And it's great for our series. What other kind of jigs you have, George, that you want to highlight here?
It's endless.
Yeah.
So I have a little jig head that I love to fish. A little small boot foot on. I love to fish my favorite little Kitech swing impact on my Kitech tungsten jig head. This is when you just want to be like all about that. It got the collar keeper. Very good for Elastec.
But plastic too.
Oh, yeah. But very good for Elastec. That is a 1/8 ounce 3.0, which is my favorite shallow water size. I love it. It's just it's a quality tungsten. It's a quality tungsten ball head with a quality sharp hook in it.
And that's a swing impact 4-inch swing,
which I really like to fish.
Yeah, you fish those a lot.
I really like to fish that. That's a save the day bait. And don't forget, elephants eat peanuts. I've caught many a big fish on this. Many. So I wanted to show you.
Write that one down, everybody. Elephants eat peanuts.
I heard that from a muskie guide.
That's a good one. It's a good one.
So, Mike, while George is away there, what's your rod and reel combination for the swim bait with the squadron head?
Yeah, so when I'm dragging these bigger size swim baits in the early spring, late winter, early spring, and then again in the fall, I'm using a 7-1 medium heavy extra fast taper. And I have 12-pound to 15-pound line on there. I think we run a lot of 15 last year. Running a lot of 15 because you're throwing this thing out and you're dragging it on the bottom. You drag this on the bottom.
Rocks.
You're painting rocks with it. It's a really painful.
Not to mention,
it's a painful,
huge fish.
Yeah, it's a really painful way to fish because it's super slow. But we've had such great.
The bite's awesome.
The last 2 years we had such great success with this that you build confidence in it, and it took a while. Honestly, it took a while. We also throw this rig too when it's a little warmer too, in the fall, like in September, when the fish are ganging up or they're on a ledge or something. We'll throw it on the river and we'll throw a 4.8 or a 3.8 on it and reel it. But I like that rod. I like that medium heavy 7.1 7.1 rod. And I think it's an 853 or an 854. Either one of those rods will do the really good job for you. Medium or medium heavy, extra fast taper.
Yeah. So question about line through heads with a treble. Love them. So here's a 6 cents. Notice the hook's on top. That gives you the advantage of dragging a little more. Also, you get great life out of your bait. You catch a lot more fish per bait. Buckeye also makes a really nice one that has the option of top or bottom. So, yeah, check out the Buckeye. Check out the 6 cents. These are approved by us for good hookup ratio. Really like it in open water, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
That's the go-to there, and it works great. We love it.
Great.
Thread your line through, tie on your treble hook, and go for it. Yeah, so that's our little journey through jig heads.
Yeah, good stuff.
Trying to keep it real.
I'm going to ask you guys a question. You may agree on this. You may disagree. I don't know. A traditional grub with a tail up, tail down.
Well, it's really simple.
Yeah.
Opposite of the hook.
Super simple.
Tail down.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it that way.
Any other kind of trick questions you want to throw out there?
No, but you were talking about jig heads, and when you guys were talking about rigging, I thought of that right away.
Right, yeah.
I'm like, oh man, I got
to. So what Nick's
Sound like a hustle
now what's Nick saying is the curly tail grub, which is one of the most famous baits out
or
there.
as you like to call it, the twister.
The twister. When you look at the body comes out like this, and the tail turns and hooks like this. So it's like a ribbon tail that comes down around like that. So what we're saying is when we rig it tail down or tail up, that means is it opposite the bend of the hook. So the hook comes up through the bait and then pops out the top.
Hook up, tail down.
And then the tail would curve
like that.
The tail would turn down opposite. And the reason for that is when that jig goes through the water, the tail wants to float up. So it puts the corkscrew in it and it makes it swim on the lowest, slowest retrieve.
It does.
And it allows that bait to swim really easy on the retrieve.
It sure does.
Yep.
That's money.
And I'm telling you right now, George, you're really downplaying the twister. It's a comeback king. I'm telling you, it's coming back. Things are going to change. You're going to see something happen somewhere, and the twister's going to be king again.
Well, here's the problem. When was the last time you threw one?
That's what I'm saying. It's coming back.
You know,
I'm going to start throwing my Fat Albert again. You know how I love my Fat Albert.
There's no doubt.
I'm going to start throwing my Fat Albert, bust out the twister tail Fat Albert, and I'm going to see what happens.
So, guys, we got the exact opposite of last week's tournament this week. We got a good old-fashioned grinder. And
I'm all about that though, George.
I love it. I love it. It's the Bassmaster at the Sabine. It's a tidal body of water. We kind of dig that. It's really adverse conditions. And there's some lessons to be learned here quickly.
Lots of lessons, and lots of lessons learned from the conversation on live. Go along with that.
Is this an actual tidal body of water, not like the last body of water they were on that was kind of like it really didn't move?
This is tidal.
Yeah.
This is true tidal.
Yeah.
And this is like the worst case scenario for tidal water fishing. And the worst case scenario for tidal water fishing is a strong wind against the tide. And when you're fishing in a local area, and I'll since we're here, we're gonna have our tournament on the Chesapeake Bay this weekend. I'll refer to that. You think the wind that you feel blowing in your face is what's holding that tide back? No.
Mm-hmm.
The wind that's down the bay, down the river, down the estuary, whatever that body of water is, that wind that's down there, way, way down there, blowing super, super hard in the wrong direction. Well, it's the wrong direction for 6 hours at a time is what's hurting you. And, they have a south wind, and, that south wind, it kind of works like this. They got water releases in one of their main tributaries. Sound familiar?
Mhm.
They have that water coming in. And that more or less dirties the water up. That doesn't necessarily cause like excessively high water. Now, the closer you get to that tributary, like that dam, it does. But when you get out into the estuary or the bay or the river or whatever, it kind of spreads out. But the wind is against that. So let's say the tide is trying to go out. So the water level is going to drop. Well, this wind is way down, is holding that back. So it's kind of like it's supposed to drop from here to here. It drops from here to here.
Holding it back.
Then it comes in.
Puts it on top of that.
And it's getting a boost.
And it's higher.
So now you get your high tide.
Flood tide.
On top of that.
Flood.
And then it tries to go out, and it's like watching a bad tennis match.
Did you know though, George, when it finally lets out, what happens?
Of course I do.
What happens when that wind finally stops and all this high water is there? What happens when it finally goes out?
Well, water seeks its own level.
Right.
So you are now above sea level. You built up your water level to above sea level. So when we go back to that big, strong storm system moving off, our next one or two tides will be aggressively outgoing, and they'll go much lower than normal to pull that water out of the system.
Exactly.
Because the water is pushing.
You get extreme,
as well as the gravity pulling.
You'll see extreme low tides after that.
So when you have a really, really high tide for a couple days,
get ready.
And then your wind finally subsides, not the wind you feel, the wind that they feel.
Right.
Way down yonder.
Right. Chattahoochee.
On the Chattahoochee.
Yeah.
Then you'll get an excessively low tide. And it's famous. The famous example of that on tidal waters is like a hurricane in the fall or the late, like August, September hurricane, where, you get these big storm surges and these big winds. Even if you don't get a storm surge, you get a wind surge. I guess that's a storm surge.
Yeah.
I mean,
storm surge.
I'm no Jim Cantori, but, I have stayed at a Holiday Inn Select. And then you might have to wade through the parking lot to find the boat ramp to launch. And then 3 days later, you might the end of the ramp might be out of the water at low tide. You see these excessive swings. So
it's interesting what you're saying though, because for these pros, they've been pre-fishing, they're doing their thing, they're fishing the bank, and they're like, okay, this is where the fish are holding or whatever. Next thing you know, you go the next day, and that stuff's not even in the water.
This could happen on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, guess what?
You could see this tide ripping out, and them getting this crazy situation, and people like Greg DePalma understands what's going on. People that fish those types of tides often will understand what's going on, and they'll know how it affects the fish and maybe make adjustments for them.
So for your guys though, I mean, you fished this already.
Yeah.
What have you seen in your experience with
I have strategies for this.
It's freaking
I have strategies.
It's not easy.
I have strategies to deal with this.
When it goes out suck tide, I call it a suck tide when that thing goes way out like that.
You're talking about low or high?
Low.
Oh.
Super low.
Okay, I thought we were talking about all this high water.
I'm talking about, you're saying a day or two or three after, how you could go the extreme the other way. How do you counter that if you're these guys that are like, oh shit, my stuff's not even in the water now?
They're probably not going to see that because they made a big point this morning to give the weather forecast, and they're in like day one of a 5-day major southwestern offshore wind.
Oh, see, so they won't see it.
But you need strategies for that high water.
That would be cool to see that though.
So my number one strategy for flood tide is to go to what I call a high bank, something that retains the water. What happens on like swampy type banks is, a normal high tide goes up in the woods a little bit. Well, these high tides go way back up in the woods. Mm-hmm. And what bass do is they follow that high tide. They follow it back in there because, they know there's feeding opportunities. And then as it drops, they come right back out again. They're quick like boom, in and out. So if you get yourself on a high bank situation, which is normally like an outside bend, that water ain't going that way. It's going that way. And like in this tournament that they're fishing, and I didn't see any of them doing it today. Now they're not allowed, no information, so I can't really help them out. But if I could, I would say one thing. Where is your merthiolate trickworm? Now, maybe down on the Sabine River, they don't know about this. I know Randy Howe does. I know Randy Howe knows about this, but this on a post-spawn summer tidal water, high water deal is worth a couple of quality fish. And we've talked about this. No weight, barrel swivel. Skip it up there against that high bank. Let it sink down there. Pop it a couple times. Let it sink back down. Reel it in. Do it again. This is a reactionary strike in a finesse way. So that is one of my high tide strategies.
When I have an ultra high tide and I have the ultra high water for many days that you do get with storms, and you get tributaries that dump large amounts of water in, and then you have the wind holding the water back, so you have high water for multiple days. Say it's 5, 6, 7, 8 days where it's just super high, and the system can't get rid of the water. I go to the tributaries and I go back into tributaries. I go into the little creeks, and I fish back where you would never fish, and get back in those creeks and fish those creeks back.
Because those fish move back.
Because they follow that water back.
They're like,
but it doesn't
explorers.
happen. If you get a high, you get a flood tide on a moon or something like that, those fish, it's only a 1 day thing. So it's up high for 1 day, and then it never really goes back to that. But
and you know what? I think you're right. Like, and let's relate it to this tournament.
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking already.
Yeah.
That spot where John Cox is fishing.
Yeah.
That should theoretically continue loading with this high water.
Exactly.
Because there's probably not a lot of fish way back up in there on the regular.
He goes way the hell up that thing. I don't know if I would go that far up.
This is actually playing perfectly in how he fishes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He loves that. He's loving that. I just hope that the big fish follow, are there in that area to follow that up in there. But,
I think what you're going to see here is this high water, to your point, is going to continue. And these bass, being the adventuresome individuals that they are going to continue to push back.
Guaranteed.
But one little thing these guys got in their favor is today low tide was pretty early. They got another hour tomorrow
of outgoing.
Low waters an hour later.
Yeah.
And you make the cut.
Yeah. So
you got another hour.
Another hour.
You make the final, you're up to middle of the day.
So for tidal water people that don't really know, about tidal water, your low tide, the tides always move an hour for whatever area you're in. It moves back an hour, moves back an hour, moves back an hour, and that just keeps cycling all the way around until it gets back to where it was. And what's the cycle of that?
Well, it's roughly an hour.
Yeah, roughly an hour. But for it to get all the way back to that again, is it?
It's
a month?
2 weeks.
Oh, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah. So
Right.
if you want to quickly want to understand tides where you're at, like if it's low tide at 8:30 in the morning today, it'll be low tide at 8 to 9 in the morning in 2 weeks, because that tide's advancing forward, an average of an hour.
Average. This is roughly speaking.
Per tide cycle.
Yeah.
So 8:30 today, 9:30 tomorrow, 10:30. So, as a tidal water fisherman, like your best case scenario, especially on a tough bite, is to have a low tide a little later in the morning.
Right.
Because
that outgoing is
you want to get a little more of that outcoming, and then you got that nice incoming for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Now the big hard running rivers 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you have
but your bite window extends.
If you have like a 9:30, 10
10 o'clock
low,
exactly. I love that. It's the best.
You're good to go for
till 1, 2 o'clock.
You're really good to go until about 12.
So for these guys, it's only going to get better as the week goes along.
Every day.
And I took notice.
You want to make the cut.
This morning, Greg caught his fish very early.
Mm-hmm.
So, that'll just extend for him if that's what he's counting on. That's good.
He understands what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't you worry about that. He knows exactly what's going on and why he has to make the cut, because his bite's only going to get better for sure. So to get back to that high water, if it's up and high for a long period of time, those fish, like the scenario they're having down there, those fish will continue to go follow that water back. I've had some extraordinary days on tidal water, way, way, way back up in the creeks when the water's high for a period of time. And, people just don't go back in them because it's a pain in the ass to get back in there. A lot of it's idling or trolling motor or getting over stuff to get back in there.
Go to the back. Go to the back.
Yeah. And you just go all the way back in there and you fish it all the way back and you'll have some great success with that. But always check it. 3 days of high water, you should check it. You could have some spectacular, especially if you're the first one to figure it out. You could have some spectacular fishing, which I had a couple of different times. The other high water scenario is, like George said, on the banks, and the third one is the grass that normally always in under the water, and it starts to flood over top of all that, and then you'll have an inside edge of a grass, a really nice inside edge of that grass, because now you got water over top. If you can figure out how to get back into the inside edge of that, those fish will really push back and chase bait on that inside edge, especially if it's like a little farther back than anybody's ever gone, to get to it. So these are spots that are untouched. These are areas that really haven't seen any kind of pressure, and it just opens up those avenues. So just another little thing. It's hard down in Texas because it's all flat. There's so much flat stuff down there. It's marsh, it's flat.
Well, they still have high banks.
They do, absolutely.
For example, one of the things I look for on tidal waters that are suffering from excessive flood tides is the industrial zones. Where do the barges tie up? Where do the ships come in?
Yeah.
Because those bulkheaded walls and those rocky banks and those big tie-ups, those dolphins.
Yeah.
They act as a high bank, and the strategy that you have to have comprehension of, you have to think about. I'm not going to get a lot of bites. I'm not really looking to get a lot of bites. I'm looking to get 1 or 2 bites for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because, that's just the way the tide fell. Now, if it was let's just say the next high tide was today for them was probably at like 3 o'clock. So if you're in that late flight, that 4:30 to 5:30 flight, you could catch that afternoon flurry, right? But the first day of the tournament is probably the only time you're going to catch that. Because now tomorrow it's going to be, 5:30 to 6, and you'll be at weigh-in.
Mm-hmm.
So that we always talk about the low water bite, but I will tell you this, the high outgoing turn when it starts to move and it's going to run hard for a minute, that is a prime time deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we always did say the turn and the tides are good. Any turn.
I mean, everybody says that.
Yeah.
And
you want
need
the
to
turn.
you need to be really cognizant of that.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about rotation.
Yeah.
You want to be at your best areas on those peak times. So, if you have like I think we have this weekend, like an 8 o'clock low tide, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be in your peak areas from blast off until, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then if you're catching fish, you want to make sure you stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave until that turn occurs.
Right.
Now we're kind of good this week because we are forecasted to have a west wind.
Right.
And that doesn't mess with the water too much.
Right.
So we should see, in our tournament, we should see like normal
tide movements.
Tides.
Yeah. And to go along with that, George, oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh my God,
dude, I had an epic freaking thing, and then you drug it out, and then I lost it.
Wasn't too epic. Well, one of the things that I like to do is,
oh no, go ahead. Oh yeah. So it goes with the high and low tide. You have your high.
I'm dealing with a pro here.
You have your high water. You have this is live TV. This is what you get. You have your high water spots, and you have your low water spots. And Nick has high water and low water spots. George has high water and low water spots, and I have high water and low water spots. We've learned those over the years. There's a lot of people that are watching who never really fished high water before, so you have to learn this stuff. How do you do it? You just you fish the tide, and you're fishing, and all of a sudden you whack them. Don't just whack them, take a picture, throw it in the water, and just go on to fishing. Figure out what part of that tide was at, and you caught 5 or 6 fish in this area. Was that a high water spot? Was that a low water spot? Was that in the medium tide? And then you'll start to build your little repertoire,
Big words we're using here, George.
Of areas. And then that becomes your rotation, because we keep talking about rotation. What the hell are you going to rotate on if you don't have anything?
Right.
You got to learn the rotation. You got to learn your spots, and you got to figure some high spots and some low spots. And because, it's tomorrow, it's low tide at 8, but next week you're going back down there, and it's a total opposite. It's high tide at 8.
You better figure it out.
And, so you need to be able to learn how to do that. So it's good to fish all the different tides and learn that. And pick up on those spots and pick up on those areas that do good on high water and low water and everything in between. That's the rotation that we're talking about when you start talking about rotation.
And, we talk a lot about the Upper Bay. I know George and Mike, the Potomac is near and dear to your guys' heart. And we talk about a lot of other areas, but you also have a place like the Hudson River that has a lot of there's a lot of water moving.
Massive tide.
So talk about that a little bit. Like, does that follow the same deal?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's just a much shorter window. Some of these spots, like George fished a spot.
Well, the incoming tide is real short on the big tides. The incoming bite is like 45 minutes.
Wow.
George fished the Danacoke River, which had a pretty big tide, and he was telling me one day, and correct me if I'm wrong, George, but he was telling me one day that he had 20 minutes on each spot at that as he worked the tide down, because it was a giant. It was a big tide. It wasn't giant, but it was big. It was a bigger tide. And the Delaware River has a 8.5 foot tide.
No,
You remember those guys fishing that during the Bassmaster, and they were all getting stuck on sandbars and going crazy and all that
That's
stuff?
a big tide.
Oh, that's a huge tide. It's an 8-foot tide. So your bite windows are I think are smaller with those gigantic tides because it moves so fast and hard. You know, when it does finally start moving. Capiche?
Oh yeah.
That was some knowledge dropping on you, buddy, right there. Let me tell
I
you.
don't need to know much about that Delaware River tide. I've already got my
They
lifetime supply
You got
of
your fill
Delaware.
of
Hey,
that place.
They talked about the Delaware River today on the Bassmasters
Yeah.
as being in the same realm as the lowest weigh-ins ever.
I've seen it. Been
Yeah.
there, done that. Got the T-shirt.
But it was heavier. It was heavier than the Sabine. I think it was 50. Iconelli won. It was like 54 pounds for 4 days.
Heavier than the Three Rivers.
And I think the lightest one was the Sabine. And this, when they were comparing,
I'd be willing to bet
Sabine 44.
that the Delaware River winning weight was under 50 pounds.
No, it wasn't. It was 54, 52 or
I'm
54
just saying I'd be willing to
pounds.
bet.
All right,
Cash money.
bring it up. Iconelli won it, I think. Only time they were there, right?
He definitely won it.
Yeah, it was the only time they were there.
Yeah.
It was 52 or 54 pounds.
I'll say less.
Check that, Nick.
I'll say under 50.
You might be right, but I thought they said it was 50.
So some of the stuff that I like to do this time of the year on Tidal water.
Uh-oh. So what was the bet? George, you were under 50.
Yeah.
47-14.
For the Delaware?
Yep. That was August. That was 2014.
That was a great
We were
tournament.
there.
We were there. It was a great
August
tournament.
7th through the
Yeah.
10th.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
we were down there working.
That was one of the funnest event. Oh, that was such a fun event. They had this stadium, Nick. They had this actual stadium right there, right behind where we were working, and it was a stadium went up. It was like a amphitheater, Freaking phenomenal.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
So would you happen to know who got second in that tournament?
Skeet Reese.
Nope.
No?
Chris Lane.
Oh, Chris Lane.
So it went from 47-14 to 39-14.
Wow.
That's a big jump.
That is a big jump. Yeah. The best part of the whole thing, Iconelli did a rooster tail. He trimmed his motor up, and it was right, like he got his trophy. He put it on his boat, and everybody was all around. It was all, of course, it was all the Jersey guys and all the Philadelphia guys all standing there, and they never left after he got his trophy. And Iconelli was out front there, and he trimmed his motor up real high, and he was shooting the water up in the air like, whoa, whoa.
That's
whoa.
awesome.
And it was just a great event. I had so much fun there. It was the loudest event they ever emceed. All the guys were like, this is the loudest it's ever been anywhere. Jersey, man. Jersey and Philadelphia came out, let me tell you. Yeah, those Southern people, they were shocked. And it shocked us too, because we're not used to that. But it was fun. It was really a fun time. 47-14, Mike.
Yeah, your
shocked
top four, and that's
Yeah.
all I can tell
It
you on
shocked
here.
me.
Didn't shock you, yeah.
Was Mike Iconelli, Chris Lane, Jason Christie, and then
Jason Christie. Jason Christie's a hellacious title
and
warrior
then
guy.
Kevin Short was fourth.
Oh, Kevin Short. Okay. Yeah. I remember that.
I'll tell you what, this is a tight one that we're watching now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Pat Schlapper's in first with 12-2, and he caught a 4-4 today. That probably ain't going to happen tomorrow.
No, for sure.
Now, my prediction is the 50 cut is going to be 14 pounds. Now,
Yeah.
normally I would say 13, but because the tide's getting better tomorrow,
Yeah, it's going to be better.
I'm going to say it's going to be 14 pounds
Yeah, I would say so
for
too.
the 50 cut. So that's low. That's low.
I'd love this. Jim Saban, I'd love to see him come back to the Three Rivers.
I'm going to go under. We'll remember this for next week. I don't know why. I heard somebody saying on weigh-in that it feels like 90 boats are in the same tributary. Must be a little bit cleaner water. I don't know. But that's going to do some damage to some of those fish.
Well, what about the other 660 square miles of water that the other boats are in?
Right. But you're talking
and then get
top,
another hour of Tide tomorrow.
but you're talking top 50. So if those guys beat each other up enough,
It's 7 pounds right now.
yeah. I'll go under. You're going 14. I'm going under. Top 50 though, right?
But I mean, I'm not going for pride here.
Ooh, we're going for wings.
I mean, I want to see some cash, or I want to see some actionary shit happen.
We're going wings.
Some cash.
Okay.
I'm going under 14. You're going over.
All right. So next week after live, we're going for late night wings.
Yeah.
And Nick is buying.
I don't know. I think George is buying. And you know what? Speaking about live real quick for next week.
I'm writing that shit down, boys.
We're making somebody famous next week. So that's cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The beauty of this tournament is, and this is what we're talking about right now, is we're talking about the SummerSlam tournament, which is going on this Sunday, May 18th. And you still have one more day to sign up if you guys are listening and you were thinking about it. We still got a little bit of openings, couple openings left. If you win the tournament, and I want to say that Matt Yingling and Sui, I think his last name was, last year won it, 22 pounds, 62, something like that. They won it. And they had to come on the show. We set them all up. They came on and explained how they did it and what they did, and they got famous quick. And you guys can go back and see that episode and rewatch that episode. But and I remember that the guy poured his own baits.
He did. And a year before that, that's when we got our famous song for Susquehanna Fishing Tackle.
Yeah. You remember that, George?
Oh, yeah. I was down with that.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to be an interesting tournament Sunday, and we're going to learn a lot because, you know, the word on the street that I've heard from a lot of people, you might want to check yourself, is the water is so dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're a competitor in this tournament, you know, quite a bit of your field is concerned about the color of the water. So they're probably not going to make, you know, the best decisions. And here's why. It's uncomfortable. We try to get away from this. I mean, look at this elite tournament. They're going all over the place trying to get away from this. But here's the deal. A lot of these fish that we saw caught today were caught in some dirty water. And you know why? It's been dirty.
They acclimate.
So I like to call it new mud. So when water gets dirty, well, you got nice. Now, not for nothing, that water never was real clean.
Right.
Okay. But fish get used to it. And I'd like to tell you, the biggest bag that me and him ever caught on this tournament location, the biggest bag we ever caught, which was somewhere between 26 and 27 pounds. We were not in a tournament. Was caught. You couldn't see anything. The water was that dirty. But it had been that dirty for a month.
Mm-hmm. It was dirty for a while.
And we caught them on a crankbait, and they were big-ass fish. 5s and 6s. So, dirty water messes with you more than it messes with the fish. So don't alter your game plan too tragically, severely, because now, is there benefit to going to someplace that doesn't have dirty water? Yeah. You can run and you can get to place that's not gotten dirty. But keep in mind, this water's dirty for a while now. So these fish have become accustomed to it. Mm-hmm. Number 2, techniques for dirty water. You know, we all tend to go power fishing under that scenario. I mean, the chatterbait.
Yeah.
Crankbait. Not a lot of people crank grass, but they should. Tip on the crankbait in dirty water. Size it up. If you like to crank a 1.5, tie on a 2.5. and go to heavy line, 20 pound. Okay.
Yep.
And rip that crankbait out of the grass. And if you have a high tide situation, that's a great way to get a quality bite. Keep in mind, it's not the number of bites, it's the size of the bites. Okay. Now, do not overlook slowing down either. If you watch this tournament today, a lot of these guys were flipping. Why? They had a terrible tide. They had to hit a fish on the head. Literally. The fish that they were fishing for were gone. They were back up in the woods where these guys couldn't get. So the ones that weren't gone, they had to hit on the head. So keep that in mind, you know, in your dirty water fishing.
Big time.
Saturate your target. You got a nice laydown? Put 30, 40 flips on it.
Big time.
Pick it apart, limb by limb by limb. You got a grass line that you're on? Flip the clumps.
Yep.
Flip, saturate it. You think they're on beds? Cast out and drag. So, you know, don't let dirty water conditions like take you out of the game. Just watch this tournament tomorrow. Watch this Bassmaster tournament on the Sabine. That dirty water is not a problem. Okay. Some of the things I like to do if I'm fishing boat docks, I like to fish them with a chatterbait. Chatterbait skips great. I like to chatterbait down parallel on them. I like to skip up underneath them and run a chatterbait a couple casts. I'm not picking that dock apart. I'm moving along. Dock. If I catch a fish, I'm turning around. I'm flipping my way back through there. And I'm going to pay attention. Here's something about tidal water. Pay attention what part on that dock that fish came. Like, I'm telling you.
Was it the front?
If you're catching them fish on the first part of that walkway from the shoreline out and you catch two fish doing that, that's where they're at.
They're all there.
That's where they are at.
Sometimes they're out on the ends of them.
And for the next hour, keep all your fishing confined to that part of that dock where you've been getting bit.
Yeah.
You know, and think outside the box a little bit, you know, chatterbait the docks, of course, crank, you know, square bills, size up, think about your colors, your reds, your fire tigers, your chartreuse blackbacks.
Yeah, no doubt.
Try to get on that higher water, try to get on them higher banks. You know, is it riprap? Is it a bulkhead? Are you in a marina fishing? Great. And work those whole. You're not going to get a lot of bites on a bad tide. You're not going to get a lot of bites on a bad tide when the water's dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. You're just not going to get a lot of bites. So your peak, be in your best areas for your peak part of your tide. Make hay while the sun shines. Worst case scenario, get on hard cover on a high tide that's holding that water back and pick it apart.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
you got any like dirty water, high water secrets?
I mean, a big thing.
What's your confidence in that go-to situation?
You know, the thing about me is one of the things that I look for is the little thicker grass. And what happens in the little thicker grass is it filters the water more so. So maybe not so much like right now when it's fresh mud coming in, but by Sunday you're going to have, you know, this water is going to be kind of subsiding from coming down, and you're going to have tidal cycles. There's going to be thicker grass out there that filters that water, and you know, might be like 7 inches of visibility over there, but over here, you know, 200 yards away from where the main current is, you have 8 to 10 inches of visibility. And I've always said that, you know, that when you get to certain areas, we can get in, you can look for, you know, when you're fishing tidal water and you're fishing, you know, what has been muddy for a while, there's pockets of cleaner water that you can find, you know, slowly but surely, and you can see it. And you'll get to those spots and you'll go, my God, that's 6 inches of visibility better, or 3 inches of visibility better. And then that's where I concentrate. I flip a little harder. I flip, you know, those spots. But I like a big bait. I like a creature bait. I fish a lot of Strike King. Their bugs. You know, I like that size.
A lot of rage tail stuff.
Yeah, rage tail stuff. I like that thump. There's a really big thing. I don't do enough of it, but there's a really big thing about putting rattles in your bait. You know, this is the time you want to do that. If you have rattles, this is when you want to do it, in that dirty water. And then there's a big time thing about scent. So, you know, we used to have to always use scent, but now you have max scent. You have, you know, this kind of plastics that have the scent built into them, and that makes a big deal. But look for the clear water. I always look just for clear water, and whether it's, you know, if I have a practice day or two, then I'm running around a lot. I'm moving a lot. I'm covering a lot of distance, and I'm looking for that clear water. And if it just is going from 3 inches to 2 inches, 2 inches to 5 inches, 5 inches to 10 inches of visibility, you know, you'll see that in some of these spots. Tidal water swirls a lot in certain bodies of water. You know, it has a big swirl to it. On the flats, I don't know if you notice it, Nick. It's an outgoing tide, but the grass is facing
you see that
the wrong direction.
Yep.
You know, because it's a swirling, it has all these troughs and stuff that swirl the water around and push it one way or another, and makes the current go in weird ways. So some of those places that are facing up towards the Susquehanna River and it's an outgoing tide, that's getting some water from the bay, and that might be a cleaner little streak of water coming up through there, you know. So there's all things you can kind of look at. That's what I've always did, look for cleaner water.
Well, and the fun thing too is, you know, we talked about in the beginning of the show, the positive attitude.
Yeah.
Look at it. You know, the variables are what make these tournaments interesting.
Yeah.
You know, most people are learning the bay year by year through this tournament.
Yeah.
And they're picking up things year by year, but these variables are going to put little kinks in your plan.
Yeah.
But it's going to make you a better fisherman when you have to make those decisions on the water.
Right.
And it's not just perfect. Oh, last year I remember this. Well, now we got a variable. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
The good news is, no matter what, when it comes to tidal water, you got moving water. These fish have to eat.
They have to eat.
They have to eat.
Yep.
You know, one thing Greg always told me, Nick, these fish have to eat and they like to eat. That's what it is. So keep that mental approach and you'll be fine.
Absolutely. You know, that's a big takeaway. And right here at the end of the show, mental focus in tidal water fishing is crucial. Understanding the tide, understanding that there's lots of parts of the tide that you don't get bites, and having that mental focus. I thought it was really great today that Mark Menendez was idling from one spot to the other, and he caught himself negatively thinking something. And he said that, you know, these are the times where you got to just, you know, understand what's going on. I need to check myself and understand exactly what's going on. I need 2 more bites. You know, I have 3 hours of fishing left, and I don't want to start making hasty decisions because I'm, you know, this is the bite. It's a slow bite. It's a tough bite. I need to be where the fish are. I need to grind them out. That's it. It's a mental game. It's a mental attitude. For you young guys that are fishing and are still watching, if you give up at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning because you don't have anything in a live well, that's your worst thing you can possibly do. That's the mental breakdown that you have. You can't allow that to happen. You got to say, well, you know, they're biting somewhere, and why aren't they biting here? You know, we need to move. We need to make this. We need to talk about this. The tide isn't right here. Let's cycle through it again. Let's come back in an hour. We caught them here. I know they're here. We'll come back in an hour. We'll do this. We'll do that, and keep a positive attitude. I think that's that's really Tidal Water Thinking 101. Really good, really awesome tidal water fishermen that I know understand the tides on the body of water that they're fishing to the T. And they know where to be when. And that's how those guys catch fish all the time. Okay. You got anything else, George?
Yeah, I think the allure of tidal water fishing is the techniques are no different than anywhere else.
Yeah.
But the playing field changes constantly. So, don't try to overcomplicate it with trying to fish like every technique known to mankind. For example, my lineup in tidal water fishing is pretty basic. And I would recommend a lot of people adopt it. You need to be a master of jig fishing. A jig will carry you through a large percentage of your tidal fishing. It's simple as that.
Mm.
I'll even say this. I'll say that if you are fishing our tournament on Sunday and you're lost and you're confused, put your trolling motor down, pick up a jig, and don't stop. You'll get your bites.
Mm.
So the jig, paramount importance. The shaky head, which we talked about. I can't state enough how deadly a shaky head is in tidal water fishing. Because remember, a lot of your day is fishing in non-productive time. So you need to get a bite. The drop shot is extremely important in tidal water fishing.
Yeah.
And now moving bait wise, you're going to have like your big four. You're going to have a chatterbait, a spinnerbait, a crankbait, and a swim jig. And if that's too much for you to comprehend because it's just too many baits and you're not good with that many rods on the deck,
cut it in half.
Pick out the spinnerbait or the chatterbait.
Yeah.
And, concentrate on what the tide's doing. Don't lose sight of where your better fishing areas are, but always know what that tide is doing. That's your alarm clock for a bite.
Yeah.
That tide is telling you what time to be where. And, just drink the Kool-Aid, go all in. Your tidal water game will expand. If you're new to tidal water fishing, you're going to love it. If you're fairly seasoned at it, a lot of this is probably resonating with you.
I think the seasoned
phenomenal.
guys,
the challenge is amazing.
The seasoned guys understand how frustrating it is. That's what they understand. So they know the frustration.
But that's what keeps you coming back.
But that's exactly what keeps, because they had that 25-pound bag, and then very next day they go back and they had 15 pounds. They don't want to understand what happened, and they want to figure it out. So that's tidal water fishing big time. But yeah, so I think we're gonna wrap this up here and say this. I'm excited about Sunday. We're really excited about the tournament. I hope you guys really are. It's going to be a great time. No matter what the conditions are, it's going to be a really great time. We're going to fish it. We're going to have a good time on the water, and we're going to catch fish. We're going to weigh a ton of fish in, right, George?
My prediction is 24 to win, and 20 might not get paid.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty big predictions. But anyway, we're gonna catch them good, and we're gonna have a good time. And I'm really hoping that I'll see you guys there with smiling faces. We can't wait to talk to the guys who we don't see too often. So it's a great opportunity to do that. So your last minute guy, you got a last minute to get in. Still got tomorrow. give us a call. We'll get you in. We'll get you in the tournament. It's going to be a great time. Until next time on Tackle Shop Live, we'll catch you on the next one.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down low and I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. Hopeless lover. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. Oh, don't make me wait, it's not a funny game. You know just what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me